Welcome back to Sandlot and the Crew, where Sandlot Radio Show meets Wrecking Yard Baseball and Softball. I'm your host, Will Kiger, a.k.a. Wrecking Yard Will. And I'm here, as always, with Mr. Tad Powers, former minor league player, major league scout, Australian professional, started a sports card company. He's still surfing to this day. Absolute legend, Sandlot Radio Show owner, operator, and someone I work with a lot. And today we have part 2 of a very special guest, someone we're really excited to have on. If you haven't seen part 1, go check it out. It's absolutely incredible. This guy's been all over the world. He's worked in law enforcement, in baseball, and international affairs. Part 1 was absolutely dynamite. So we're really excited to get into part 2 with Mr. John Miedreich, co-owner, vice chairman, and executive VP of Baseball United, the newest, hottest thing in baseball right now. League starting up over there in the Middle East and Dubai, and they are bringing baseball to a whole new population. It's great for the game. There's 1 billion people over there. As John was telling us, there's actually a lot of avid baseball fans there, which we did not know. We'll get into that a little bit here in a minute, but very excited to have him on. Also has been a GM of a baseball academy in the Dominican Republic, where they're helping kids get more opportunity and just doing great stuff for the game. So we're really excited to have him on. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Tad.
So, John, this league that you have, that, you guys had an introductory tournament that just went on, or basically you played 3 games. You did a draft, 4 teams, drafted some unbelievable former major league players. You've got some younger players that obviously have major league time or are prospects that could still become major leaguers, and you signed some kids from the region to just give them a taste of what it's like to be up there with the pros and hopefully inspire them and others from their areas to play this great game of baseball. So, number one, thanks again for what you guys are doing, and also for looking at baseball and seeing what can we do to make it unique and more exciting for people in a part of the world where they really do follow cricket with all of their heart.
Well, first of all, Tad, Will, thanks for having me on again. I really appreciate the opportunity to tell the story of Baseball United and what we're doing. There's no doubt about what we're trying to do as, share America's pastime, the great game of baseball that is so, revered here in the United States, Latin America, and the Far East. We looked at this last frontier, right? The last conquered potential frontier being the Middle East and South Asia. Bringing a high level of talent, which you referenced, had in regards to some of the level of players that we've had involved, or we're going to continuously have involved in the league to play at a very high level. We want the quality of play to be really strong, but at the same time, we think it's important to really internationalize our rosters. That's one of our points of difference from some of the other leagues around the world. We really want to internationalize the rosters, have representatives from, every corner of the country that, every corner of the earth, every country one can imagine, because we believe that, taking a kid like Constance Karikka, who's a right-handed pitcher from Finland, who we had playing at our event, right? There is, believe it or not, a sizable Finnish baseball fanship. But the reality is, until one of those kids has the opportunity to play at the highest levels, it's really difficult to engage that fan base. So we want to be able to, I use Constant as an example, but then when you're talking about really where our bread and butter is in that Middle East and South Asia, right? We took a kid, Hashan from Sri Lanka, and we put him on the base paths, and he was one of our designated runners. You talked a little bit about some of the rule changes. One of the things that we did for this 2-game showcase and will be doing as we move forward is, as you know, a traditional baseball game here in the States, we declare 10 players, right? 1 through 9 plus the DH. We are going to be declaring 11 players. It's 1 through 9, the DH, the designated hitter, and the DR, a designated runner. It allows some of these local kids who maybe run a 6'4". I mean, you mentioned a kid out of the Ukraine who runs a 6'4". I like that kid's chances on the base path much better than I do.
Pablo?
like in the batter's box right now against the kid who throws the ball 95, right?
Right.
Because the reality is that's a skill that's only developed over time. And the reality is, as a hitter, hitting, high velocity pitching, if you don't have anyone in Sri Lanka who's throwing the ball 95 to 100, off a mound, it's hard for that kid to develop the swing to be able to play at the professional level. But what we can do is Hashan could just straight up fly. The kid runs about a 6'5". We gave him an opportunity to be one of our DRs, our designated runners, where 3 times a game, the managers can now place that DR on the base path. And there's no substitution necessary. It's not like it's a pinch runner where you're substituting the player out. It's just a designated runner. He can go in, run for Robbie Cano, let's say, who got on base with a base knock, and Hashan runs, steals the base. I think he was the first player, foreign player, or foreign prospects to actually successfully steal a base. I am not kidding you. If you follow that kid on Facebook and on Instagram, he's like literally a legend in Sri Lanka today because of that. And I'm not just making it up. When he went back to Sri Lanka after the tournament, after our 2-game showcase, he was received, no joke, he returned home via parade. They had a parade for him to welcome him back to his town. He's been on every single news outlet, sports radio outlet. The college that he attended a few years ago basically had this whole event to receive him back, where he sat as a member of on a dais. So really inspiring to get these local kids a chance to play the game at the highest levels. So again, one of the, we want to be able to innovate the game. That's surely one of our buckets of difference with some of the traditional baseball leagues around the world. But one of the other buckets of difference is internationalizing the roster to the, as diverse as we can.
That's awesome.
Amazing. You guys giving those opportunities, and a kid getting to come home to Sri Lanka and basically be a celebrity now just from 1-2 game experience. I love that you guys are looking for prospects right there in the Middle East as well, and not everybody's coming from America. Very cool. I wanted to jump in real quick while we were talking about really cool prospects you guys have, because I heard, I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard that you guys had the Ugandan catcher who went viral on social media from just such a badass clip of this guy just out in the mud with bricks and tires and just getting after it, training, just chasing his dream, and he goes super viral. And I hear that you guys have got him involved in your league. Is that true? And what's going on with him?
What an unbelievable story. What an inspiration. I mean, when you see those clips, I remember seeing those clips as far back as a year ago. To be able to have, met Dennis and now have a relationship with Dennis Kasumba is just unbelievable. And the story goes, the date of our first game was Friday, the 24th of November. Friday, the 24th of November. The Sunday just prior to that, we're sitting in our office in Dubai, and Cash, our CEO, comes into my office and said, "John, I have an idea." One of our players, our professional players, unfortunately had a situation with his passport. After his flight was booked, we already had a visa for him to come into Dubai, but he was coming from Venezuela, but he just wasn't able to get on the plane because of a passport issue he had there. So we needed somebody who could jump in and fill in as a potential catcher. And, Cash comes into my office and says, this kid, Dennis Kasumba, has been like blowing me up on IG, on Instagram. And I've been following his videos. He's a real inspiration. What do you think? And I said, look, I took a look at some of the videos, and strictly what I was looking at was, can we put this kid in the bullpen? Can we put him to warm up some pitches? Can we put him in? Is he going to be able to catch a 95-mile-an-hour fastball? Because we don't want to make it a gimmick either, right? So when I saw his skills and the way he could frame a pitch, I said, no, the kid was going to be able to do it. So we reach out to Dennis through Cash's leadership on Sunday night, the Sunday just before our first game on Friday. And, we had a conversation with him and his coach in Uganda. We had a quick conversation on a video call with them. And we found out that Dennis's passport was expired. He didn't have a passport. So I said to Dennis, well, look, and again, we talked about a little bit of my experience working around the world and, understanding the way that passport controls and border controls work in other countries. I knew it wouldn't take that long to get that, up and running probably in Uganda. Much different than here in the States where you send your passport in and have to wait months to get it. I figured it was something he could probably do in half a day. So Cash basically said, hey, let's do it. Let's give the kid the opportunity. Let's see if he can go get his passport. We send him Monday morning to get his passport. He sends me back a picture of his new passport on Monday afternoon. Tuesday, we apply to get him a visa to come into Dubai because now he has a Ugandan passport. He just can't jump on a plane and show up in Dubai. He needs the Dubai authorities, the government, to allow him to come in. Obviously, the relationships that we have on the ground in Dubai, the support that we actually have a 15-year sanction agreement with the Emirati government that gives us basically sanctions to run the game of baseball within the country for the next 15 years. Those relationships that Cash and I have formed and our ownership group have obviously formed over the past year and a half for doing this, but that basically proved to be valuable as we were able to get Dennis a visa within 24 hours to get into the country. He was on a plane by Wednesday. And what was so special was, and this is the truth, and this is really when we kind of realized, or when I realized, I should say, that this is just different because it's bigger than the game of baseball, right? And we're using baseball to positively impact the world and affect lives. But I'm telling you right now, what was unbelievable was, giving Dennis the opportunity to come out and meet, some of his heroes and people that he's probably dreamed of playing against. What was more humbling was when we announced to the locker rooms and to the clubhouse, like I think it was before the practice on Wednesday, we told each of the East and West All-Star team in their clubhouse, we showed Dennis's video and we said, Dennis is on a plane coming here. I am not kidding you. How many of those guys were in tears? The pro guys, the guys who played at the highest levels. I'm talking about ex-Cy Young winners. I'm talking about ex-Platinum. They were in tears that they were given the opportunity to play with Dennis Kasumba. It wasn't the other way around. That is not an exaggeration in the least. So
I know you're not exaggerating because I'm literally teary-eyed right now, and seeing that dude's videos had me teary-eyed, and man, that is just incredible stuff. I love that. Tad, go ahead. What you got?
Well, we've got some stories like that. The Ukrainian kid, we got some kids out of Nigeria, of course, Australians. I want to help you guys to achieve that goal of having quality players from different parts of the world, because then you really are an international league. A lot of people claim to be that, but are you really international if you're not including everyone? So you guys have that opportunity, and I want to help with that. I want to make sure that you get the best Nigerian, that you get the best kid out of Australia, and that these kids have an opportunity to showcase themselves, and in a league that, again, the uniqueness of it. Let's talk about that money ball, because my buddy AJ was on the show when he first signed professionally, 2010. His dad was on my very first ever show, and then he was on again this year. So I've known AJ since he's 9. He had the life experience of a lifetime going to Dubai and playing in those games.
No, it's awesome. Well, first of all, really appreciate your willingness to help and support. Obviously, relationships are everything, and your understanding of the game of baseball and really the international scouting experience that you have and those relationships, we're surely open to, continuing that conversation to get some of these unique players, representing the league for sure, because that's really one of the pillars of what we're doing. So really appreciate your willingness to pitch in there. The money ball, that honestly, that was 100% our CEO and owner Cash and co-owner Cash Shake's idea. I didn't see it. I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a baseball traditionalist, but when Cash came up with this money ball concept about a year ago, I don't want to say I didn't like it, but I surely didn't love it. But I guess I didn't have that vision. I mean, comes from a marketing background and really just understands how to capture that audience, if you will. And I think this was just a brilliant idea. You know, you mentioned AJ. AJ successfully navigated around giving up that first home run. Fortunately, but unfortunately, so Panda goes on. So Pablo Sandoval, the Kung Fu Panda, hits the first six-run home run in the history of the game of baseball. And Nick Swisher's up in the booth I think he was up with Elvis Andrews, one of our other co-owners, was up there when that happened. And, they had an amazing call of that home run. And the only blemish, and I shouldn't say blemish because this is just part of the game of baseball. And actually, maybe I'm talking myself out of calling it a blemish because it's probably a great thing. One of our Indian prospects, Saurabh Gaikwad, gave that home run up, right? And the reason he gives that home run up is because he knows who Pablo Sandoval is. He knows the guy's power's off the charts. So he says, I'm going to throw him an Uncle Charlie. I'm going to throw him a hook. The first pitch he at bat, because I know he's going to be sitting fastball. And Pablo sends that 12-6 curve into space. Now, the thing is, when we asked Pablo later on, Carlos Mirabal is one of our other, he works as a director of development for the Indian and Pakistan market for me. He's one of my guys. But Carlos has donated his time for the last 3 or 4 years. He was actually an former Nippon leaguer, big leaguer out in Japan for 6 years.
Yeah, I remember.
Donated his time for the last 3 or 4 years just helping these Indian pitchers develop. So he was working with Saurabh. So he asked, so after the home run, Carlos is in the dugout. He's one of the coaches in the dugout where Sandoval rounds the bases, comes in. He goes, let me just ask you, how was the curveball? And Sandoval says, it was actually a really good curveball. But what he doesn't understand is guys did that to me my whole career. They know I can hit the fastball. So I was sitting curveball. Unfortunately, that young guy didn't have the experience to know that. So, what was great about that was it was baseball history. First 6-run home run ever hit. Rounds the bases. When Saurabh gets taken out of the game, he just came out with such high energy. He gets taken out with pride. Even though he gave up that home run, it didn't break his spirits or anything. So originally I said it was maybe a negative spin on it, but it probably wasn't because, as we know, this game of baseball is a game of failure and, it's learning to overcome that and it's learning how to play within that separates really the best players from just everyone else. So it's probably not a negative. And Saurabh showed some resiliency coming off the mound. I mean, there's video of him with a huge smile on his face. It's probably like Tad getting posterized by Len Byers, right? Because I'm sure
what's crazy? When I spent a lot of time in Australia, and I brought wiffle ball to Australia, and we had this really cool field where we played wiffle ball. But if you hit it over the roof of this structure that we were playing at, we called it a cricket 6 because in Australia, you play cricket, you hit one over the fence, it's 6 runs. A cricket 6 is very exciting. So when I saw the 6-run home run, I was very excited for everyone except for the pitcher because I started thinking about what's that do to a pitcher's ERA? I gave up 3, but I got charged 6. That's just going to kill me. So, and I told that to AJ. I was like, man, aren't you glad you didn't give up that Moneyball home run? Because I don't even know how to calculate that in an earned run average, but I'm sure it's painful.
It is. We talk about this often. When we have a great partnership with Major League Baseball, and right up to Commissioner Manfred and his office. Obviously, our owners group allows us to have those relationships because of who they are. The reality, though, is when you look at Major League Baseball, right? We believe their number one strength is obviously that 150-year history of who they are and what they have. That's their number one strength. But it's also, in a way, it's a limiting factor, we believe, to allow them to grow and innovate the game because you just can't change the rules, right? Because of that storied histories, like you talked about in ERA, right? Those records and that history is something that's memorialized. what's great about Baseball United is as we take the game to this new market, right? It's a white space opportunity. Baseball is what we share
Right?
it as we share it, right? So the opportunity to do some of these things that maybe some other leagues around the world would love to be able to do, but are limited or hamstrung by making some of these changes. One of the most exciting things for MLB when in our talks with them is, well, we could go out and kind of be a learning lab for them. Because let's say that, I mean, obviously the money ball, we believe, is something that's here to stay after that experience. But as you look at that, let's say it wasn't what it was, then that's something we could simply just say, all right, well, that goes in, the maybe not do next year bin. But these are the different experiences and different innovations that we can kind of bring to this white space opportunity that is Baseball United in this new market.
Yeah,
I
and LIV Golf did the same thing, and there was a lot of bad golf traditionalists that were like, but people love it. And I think making something that's traditional more exciting, there's never anything wrong with that. And one of the things that there was a period of time where baseball didn't allow flair or swag. It was just not cool to do it. Now it's turned into that. And I think it is more exciting for young fans when someone like Acuna and some of these guys have these. They got flair, they got swag. It makes it more interesting to watch. And we limited that with MLB in the past. No
yeah,
facial hair, no long hair. Got to wear. When I was with the Orioles, you had to wear your socks a certain height or come up behind you in spring training, cut them, send you back in the clubhouse to get a different pair. So that kind of stuff, you guys have the ability to make it what it can be. And I love that. Real quick, let's talk about these owners because it is the biggest and best ownership group in history.
No, it's an unbelievable experience to be able to work with the likes of these people every day. Obviously led by our CEO and president, Cash Shake, who I talk about all the time. It's his leadership, vision, and really direction and really commitment. I mean, the guy's second to none in the world when it comes to just putting in time and effort and vision. But when you look at the collective group, whether, and I'm just going to run down the list here. We got Mariano Rivera. And I don't think any of these guys need, an explanation on who they are. But
Hall of Famer,
Mariano
best
Rivera.
reliever of all time.
Wait, who's Mariano Rivera? I've never
Yeah,
heard of
who's
that.
that again?
There you go.
Did he ever get anybody out? I can't remember.
Barry Larkin, Adrian Beltre, Elvis Andrews, Felix Hernandez, Nick Swisher, Robbie Cano, Bartolo Colon, Robinson Chirinos, Ryan Howard, Hanley Ramirez, Matt Barnes, Shane Victorino, and our global ambassador, Albert Pujols. So,
Wow.
we believe, and this is a list that's growing every day. What's so inspiring about these guys, right from our CEO on down, honestly, what these guys accomplish on the field is one thing. We know that. We know what they did. But really who they are off the field, we believe is the biggest separating factor for Baseball United. Honestly. We mentioned Mariano Rivera and, the most, infamous stat or the most, I think the most, you obviously talk about the saves leader and what he's done, but really the stat of more men have walked
On the
on the
moon.
moon than got a hit against Mario or an earned run or a hit against an earned run against Mariano Rivera in the playoffs, which is unbelievable. And that's just ridiculous. But
great.
really what's even more ridiculous are who they are off the field. These guys, every single one of these guys, the reason why they're a part of this is because they know baseball is bigger than them in their own name. This is an ability to impact the world in a positive way. It's an ability to bring the game that they love and that they all have respect, honor, and has given them everything to a part of the world that's ripe for the game, right? And they believe that baseball could be a unifying factor in that part of the world, traditionally a fragmented part of the world. Uniting the world through the game of baseball is what we always say here. We coined the phrase baseball diplomacy, getting behind that. It's a legacy piece for these guys. It's bigger than them. It's bigger than baseball. We believe that Baseball United, if we collectively continue to do what we need to do, this is a league that we believe and we hope and pray will outlast all of us and outlive all of us, right? And so who they are on the field, obviously there's no disputing that, but really who they are off the field is really why these players and really the most legendary co-owners group has come together to really grow the game of baseball. So honored, privileged, and just blessed to have them all as a part of this.
And I'm going to
Well,
go out on a limb and say that getting Beltre kind of brought the rest of those Latin guys together, because he's kind of the godfather of the Latin players in terms of setting them up, getting them where they need to be. He is the godfather. And when you got him, I guarantee you that opened the door to all those other guys.
well,
Yeah.
without, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say, without a doubt, the most legendary owner group in the history of sports. I love what you guys are doing with the Moneyball and the designated runner, and then being a place where MLB could potentially try out new things. One thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we wrap it up was just, we talked a little bit off camera before, because Tad and I came into this thinking, okay, these guys are in a great market because it's bat to ball. There's cricket is huge. There's 1 billion people in India and even more throughout the Middle East. And so these guys got to convert all these cricket fans to baseball fans, which seems like it's doable. But then you tell us that there's actually a ton of avid baseball fans already there, which was news to us, and I think would be news to a lot of people. So can you give us a little more information on that as far as just the avid baseball fans that already exist?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, as I mentioned early offline, I think it was that we talked about early on, during, the early stages of this project, we believed that we were going to inspire some of the bat and ball sports of cricket to be, to become baseball fans. And we surely are doing that. There's a lot of proprietary strategy we have to kind of mesh those two games. However, what Will, you're discussing is the avid baseball fans on the ground that exist in the region today, right? People who are avidly following the game of baseball. And avid's an important market qualifier because it means they're transacting in the game. They're buying memorabilia, they're streaming games, they're buying merchandise, they're paying to play in local leagues. Currently, the number in South Asia and in the GCC is approximately 65 million avid baseball fans. 53 million in India, about 800,000 in the UAE, obviously a much smaller country by population. 8% of the Emirati population are avid baseball fans. 6% in Saudi Arabia, which is to the tune of 1.5 million people, right? What's so inspiring here is you're talking about some of the youngest, most diverse, most sports crazed communities on earth, right? Just to give you an example here, today, 8%, I mentioned 8% of the Emirati market or the Emirati population, 8%, 800,000 people are avid baseball fans. Okay. Golf is a sport that's done extremely well. Obviously on the ground, they have some of the most state-of-the-art golf courses in the world in the Emirates, and also F1 racing has, a huge sport there. To put this in perspective, 6% of the Emirati population are golf fans, 6%. 7% are F1 fans. 8% are baseball fans. And we've only had a 2-game showcase at this point. Wow. So the opportunity to grow the game is something we're really excited about. Now, what I would say, though, is the sophistication level of the fan is not necessarily that of, Far East Asia or Latin America or the United States. The understanding of at a high level and sophistication is not where we are today. But as we continue that grassroots development on the ground, that
you get to educate us.
We talked about the league, which is that top down, right? So the league is that we talked about that shiny piece, that shiny pie in the sky, that inspirational piece that we believe that kids can really aspire to be a part of. We've talked about most of today's segment. Top down. But bottom up is really that grassroots development on the ground, in the communities, teaching kids to play the game, putting a bat and ball and glove, in the kids' hands. When we're able to do that, that's the bottom up. And really where we meet in the middle is that sweet spot with that sweet spot that we really believe Baseball United can make the most impact in doing.
It's amazing what you guys are doing, John, and to be a part of it, and be a baseball guy that's a part of what you're doing, the impact that you guys are about to make, and the future of baseball in that region can be dictated by your group. And I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing, and God bless you for it, John, and the whole group.
Well, I appreciate that, Tad. Really appreciate, you guys, what you guys do. You and Will, it's unbelievable to hear you sharing the game over the many different ways that you do. So just great to be a part of hopefully your community now moving forward. I'd love to get, I know Cash would love to jump on at some point or another, and some of the other co-owners, and share their perspective on things. So really thank you on behalf of Baseball United and myself for helping us get the word out there and sharing a little bit about what we're doing.
Well,
Absolutely.
It's our pleasure to do so. Will, you want to wrap this thing? And then, John, I want to talk to you a little bit more when we get offline here.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up in just a second. But yeah, John, really, really appreciate you coming on. Love what you guys are doing for the game. It's like Tad said, it's our pleasure, our honor to, be a part and try to help spread what you guys are doing, and just spread the game of baseball internationally all over the world. Really excited to watch you guys grow and continue to work together for sure. As many co-owners, players, we'd love to have them. You line them up, we'll knock them down 100%. We'd absolutely love to have that. But thank you again for being a guest on Sandlot and the Crew, and we definitely want to have you come back during the radio season, and we'll continue to tell this story. But we're going to wrap this segment right here. You're listening to Sandlot and the Crew, where Sandlot Radio Show meets Wrecking Yard Baseball and Softball. I'm your host, Will Kiger, a.k.a. Wrecking Yard Will. And we got, as always, Mr. Tad Powers. And today's special guest was John Miedreich, VP of Baseball United. Make sure you guys go check that out. Go see what they're doing over there. And make sure you stay tuned.